Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. This is my mood reader mug that I got from the Bookish box and I absolutely love it. I think it's really cute. I really like the design. I also got this sweatshirt from them and it says, "A reader lives 1,000 lives," and has this really cool sword book thing on it. And it's kind of like black and white or gray and white tie-dye. A big fan. Apparently this quote is from Game of Thrones. I would not know, but I do like it. Today's video is going to be my June TBR, but it's also going to be me reading a month of fantasy romance. So a little while ago, I talked to you guys about potentially doing monthly themed TBRs where I'm reading one genre each month and then kind of comparing and contrasting everything I've read to give you my opinions on them. Like, this is worth your time, or this is overhyped, or I really enjoyed this and I was surprised that I enjoyed this genre. Just several different things like that. And I put out a poll on my Instagram and kind of asked you guys to put your 2 cents in on which genres you would like to see. And it was pretty much tied, I believe, with fantasy romance and older YA fantasy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 1 month of each. Maybe not back to back, we'll see, potentially back to back. I will do 1 month of each, and probably a historical romance month later in the year, and see what you guys think and if this should be a regular thing or not. But it'll be fun to try out, and so this month is gonna be fantasy romance. Now, I've showed you books that I've hauled. I have gotten more since then that haven't showed up in a haul yet, but I've been slowly collecting some hyped or like book talk or bookstagram hyped fantasy romances, or ones that I got that I was interested in, or I got sent to me as in like book boxes and the like. And I picked several. I picked more than I usually read in a month. That way, either if some of them are short and I can fly through them, because I feel like sometimes I can read these faster, or if I'm really not feeling one of them, I can choose another one, and it just kind of gives me a little bit of leeway, but also a lot to get through if I can get through them all and give you guys more of a variety. Now, I will say for this month, I'm not going to be doing a shelf pick for the themed months, only because there are a couple of books in this deck that do have like special edges that I would probably put in that jar anyway, and so I'm not going to draw anything else because it wouldn't match the theme. I think the only ones that would potentially match the theme would be the last of the From Blood and Ash series, which I don't want to read right now. And there's 2 more in this pile that I haven't like added to the jar yet, but everything else really wouldn't count for that genre. We're not going to be doing that, but I do have several picks for this month, and hopefully you are interested in hearing my thoughts about them. Some of them are really well known, like I said, book talk type things. Some of them are less well known and more indie. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of this list and which ones you think I should read first, but let's just get into it. So what I am planning on reading in June. The first one is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. And I've heard a lot of things about this book. I've actually heard Elliot Brooks talk about it recently, which kind of surprised me. And basically from what I know about that is that it's an enemy to lovers fantasy story where the main female character is set in this arranged marriage to marry the Bridge King, I believe is what he's called. And the reason it's called the Bridge Kingdom is because they have control of these bridges, which really allows for control over the commerce, which makes them very wealthy. And if you control the bridges, you kind of control the kingdom. So her goal in going into this marriage is to be able to take the kingdom from him and to then become powerful for her father. Kind of like overthrow him, if you will. And romance ensues, I guess. I've never read it, but I'm assuming that's what happens. And I do like those types of premises where it's like a forced marriage trope or an arranged marriage trope where one of them is trying to kill the other. I do kind of enjoy that. I think it can be done really well and can be fun. I also think there's a lot of political things in this story in particular that I'm interested in. And if you have Audible, they are on the Audible Plus catalog for free. So you can just download them and listen to them. So the first 3 are on there. So if I really enjoy it, maybe I'll read more, maybe I'll pause. But for now, I do plan on reading The Bridge Kingdom. The second one I want to give a shot to is A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. Again, I've heard a lot of good things about this book, or just a lot of hype around this book in general. I did buy the second one, and the third one I pre-ordered because I'm curious about this like Married to Magic series, because I believe they're all standalones, they're not an interlinking story. So this first one is a standalone called A Deal with the Elf King. Very similar premise of the arranged marriage. I believe it's kind of, if I'm not crossing this with another one on my list, I believe she is in this arranged marriage with an elf, or he kidnaps her and is forcing her to marry him. She's again like trying to escape this, trying to get power away from the elves because they are more powerful than the humans. Enemies to lovers type story. That's really all I know about it, but I know it's been really hyped. The next one I have my eyes on is Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton, and I have heard really good things about this series and that it's pretty dark and interesting. And from what I know about it, the main character is a nightmare, which I cannot for the life of me remember if she controls people through nightmares, if she controls nightmares in general. I just remember it gives her a lot of power, and I don't really know the intricacies of how that works. I will if I read it. Regardless, it's a very coveted power, and I believe she's the only one in existence at this point. And she's trying to save her brother, and this elf fae king comes to her and says that he knows where her brother is, and he will tell her if she marries him, and so she agrees to this marriage. And the story goes from there. I know there's 3 or 4 books out at this point, or maybe the 4th book is coming out soon. So it's pretty extensive series at this point. Again, kind of a forced, arranged, semi-course marriage trope. That's interesting. And I think the nightmare elements will be really cool. And I've heard this is kind of dark in those elements, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. No, I'm not giving you like really in-depth synopses about some of these, but that's because I've just heard about them, put them on my TBR, and then was like, I'll figure it out as I go. The next one I would like to give a shot, because I've heard a lot about this, is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. So I do really like the covers of these books. I know they're like very simple, but they're soft touch and I kind of like it. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's been pretty popular. I like Greek mythology retellings and fairy tale retellings in general, so I think I will probably enjoy this. I know it was Elliot Brooks that read A Game of Fate, which is from Hades' perspective, and this one is from Persephone's perspective. And that one was more like very focused on like him just wanting to sleep with her. And I would rather read it from Persephone's perspective, I think, because I think it would be more wholesome. And this is entirely coming off of my experience reading Lore Olympus, because I absolutely love Lore Olympus. Probably not going to be like Lore Olympus, but you know, a girl can dream. But yeah, I've heard a lot about this series, and so I just really wanted to give it a shot. And like I said, I do really like retellings, so I'm really curious about this. I don't really know what else to tell you about this other than it's a Hades and Persephone retelling, because it's a Greek myth. I don't know how to tell you the plot without like spewing the whole Greek myth. I believe it is set in modern day from what I recall, and that's kind of the only element that's a little bit different. But yeah, so I'm gonna give this a shot, hopefully, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I don't hate it. The next one I want to read that I started and I didn't finish, and I'm just gonna point to it because it's back here, is Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. It is the first book in the Bargainer series, and I have the rest of them right here. So it's Rhapsodic, A Strange Hymn, and Dark Harmony, I believe is the order. And Rhapsodic is following the main character, who is a siren. And when she is very young, she finds herself in a bad situation, and she calls upon the Bargainer to make a deal. And the Bargainer is this like demon-esque, really powerful creature, and he can, if you make a bargain with him, he'll make like your wildest dreams come true, but he will come to collect, and it'll usually be more than you planned. She has collected over 300 IOUs basically from him, and he's never come to collect from her before, which is very unusual. And then I think it's like 7 years later, he shows up at her doorstep demanding to collect. And I did start this and I did really enjoy it. I didn't get really far into it, but I did like it. So I'm hoping to finish that out this month. And then if I have time, because while I do have the last 2 physically now, I bought the last 2 on Audible when they had them on sale for like $3 a piece. So if I do get through that and have time, I will rapid fire through A Strange Hymn and A Dark Harmony if I can. If not, then I can have those on deck for another time. The next one that I got that I was really intrigued about, and then apparently I didn't really know a lot about it, so we're gonna see how this goes, is The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. And I heard that this was a dark romance Peter Pan retelling. And they're all adults, so it's not like kids, which was very important to note for me. And I was curious how they were gonna pull this off and how it was gonna be like a dark Peter Pan romance. First off, this thing is short. It's a little thing. It's a little like novella. And I just didn't think it was gonna be that short, but it's less than 200 pages. So I would probably be able to fly through this. Upon further investigation, this may be a reverse harem. I don't know if I'm ever gonna be prepared for that. I'm a little scared. Hopefully it'll be okay. I can get through it. But yeah, I've heard people talk about this. I've heard people rave about this, which is why I was curious to pick it up in the first place. But maybe it'll be a quick read. Maybe it'll scar me for life. Maybe I'll like it. Who knows? But on the front it says, never, never let him take you. And on the back it says, the stories were all wrong. Hook was never the villain. And it says, like, for 2 centuries, all of the darling women have disappeared on their 18th birthday. And sometimes they're only gone for a little while, and sometimes they're gone for a long time, but when they're returned, they're always broken. And I'm assuming the main character is Wendy, I don't know. But the Wendy in this story says that her mom tries to, like, lock her in the house to keep her from being taken on her 18th birthday, but it's pointless and she gets taken. It says they're not willing to let her go. That's all I know about it. Maybe I'm in way over my head, but I was really curious about a Peter Pan retelling that was like romance, so yep. This next one that I've also heard people really rave about, specifically for the character Knox, is Flames of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins, and this is book 1 in the 9 Realms series. I'm sorry, the Legacy of the 9 Realms series. And this is a new cover. When I was buying it, I thought I was getting the old cover, so I might buy that one secondhand and then return this because this was new, because I like the old cover better and I could buy it used potentially. But it's actually getting really hard to find for some reason. I don't know a lot about this. It's kind of a chunk. I know that it's about fallen angels, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, so it talks about the main character coming back to the human realm and then finding this guy that has declared himself king of the human realm of Haven Falls. Oh, and it says that she's a witch of the Hecate bloodline, which is really cool. And I guess Knox is the angel or the fallen angel in the story. It doesn't really explain a lot about it on the back, but basically she comes back to find that he's taken over the human realm. And she enters in this, like, battle to take it back from him. They're kind of clashing, and it's an enemies to lovers thing again. And there's a setup for this big war that's going to be happening that he's trying to set up. Either way, war is inevitable. And like I said, I've heard really good things about this, and I've heard people obsess about Knox, so I was curious about it. We'll see if I agree. The next one I would like to talk about is For the Throne by Hannah Whitten, and that is because this is coming out in June, and I just remembered that the other day, and I was very excited because this is one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and it is the last in the Wilderwood duology. While this isn't technically categorized necessarily as fantasy romance, there is a romantic plotline in the first book, so I'm throwing it in here as a caveat so that I can read it this month. But if you haven't seen it, I have talked about For the Wolf on my channel before. I really liked it. I was kind of surprised by it. And I can't tell you about the second one, but the first one is basically following 2 sisters, Radaris, and I can't remember her name, Naveen. Her name was kind of unusual, the other sister's name. And basically when there are twin sisters born, one is for the throne and one is for the wolf. And Radaris gets sacrificed to the wolf in the woods, but she finds out that the wolf is a man and not a monster, and that maybe the things she's been told all her life are not what they seem. And so this is the conclusion of that duology, and I'm very excited about it. There was a romantic plotline for this one, and from what I've seen from Hannah Whitten's posts, there is a romantic plotline for this book as well with this sister, and I was not expecting that. So I'm using that as a way to read this book in June because I'm very excited to see how this story ends. The next one I would like to get to, if I can, is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. And this is the Once Upon a Book Club edition. It's absolutely beautiful. Sprayed edges is what I was saying before. This is such a cool book. And on the back it says, thrashed in the fury of a storm, I find a sliver of calm. And I didn't know this when I got this, actually. It just sounded like a really cool fantasy. But this is book 1 in the Four Winds series, and you are following the North Wind. I can't remember all of the details of this story now, but basically the North Wind is like winter. He's kind of like a Hades winter scary type character, and she is in a forced marriage, I believe, to him, or is kidnapped and forced to marry him or to be around him. And it's fantasy romance, and it goes from there. I'm so sorry I'm not explaining that a lot better. That's just what I remember from it, and there's not like a synopsis on this book because it's a special edition, but I remember it sounding good and the book looks really cool, so hopefully I can get to that. I do apologize for not being able to speak more about this one, but I liked the whole concept of the 4 winds and then being kind of different seasons as well as creatures or men, and so that's what kind of really drew me into this story, and hopefully I can tell you what it's about in more detail in my wrap-up. This next one made it on here sheerly because I just got it in a book box, and that is The Longing of Lone Wolves by Lana Pekarczyk. Is what I think her name is. I'm so sorry. I'm sure I'm butchering it. I suck. But I got this in my Enchanted Fandom's Morally Grey box because it said it was a morally grey character. So I'm intrigued about it. It's the Season of the Wolf Fae Guardians novel. So I believe from what I've seen of this author, now that I've looked into it a little bit more, she's doing a Season of the Wolf where there's like 3 books, and then she's doing like demons or angels, and then she's doing elves, and she's doing, so they're all Fae Guardians novels, but they're all separate stories in the different creatures. And this is the wolf one and the first one. He is a wolf shifter who is like a protector of this land, but he has a night of weakness, and then he gets a curse that's resulted in exile. And so he's exiled onto this lake. Then this human washes up on his lake shore, and they've been told that humans are monsters, and he kind of starts to figure out that she's not a monster, and maybe humans aren't what they've been led to believe they are. And she's also the only one that can hear him, see him, and touch him. And she can break his curse, which is kind of what he latches onto. So I've heard this is a mixture between Beauty and the Beast and The Witcher. So that's really all I know about it. I haven't really heard anybody talk about this, which is why it's one of the indie ones I'm gonna mention today. So hopefully I can read this and then give you guys my thoughts on it and see if it's worth your time. I really hate the cover. I wish the cover was something different, but it is what it is. Yeah. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about today is an indie author that this is also their debut, and it is a Fae Crate exclusive, and it is Ilahara, The Last Marasser. I think that's how you say this, by C.M. Karas. First off, the book is absolutely beautiful, and it's dragon-based, which is awesome, and I did read up on this and found out that it's classified as new adult, and I believe there are romantic elements to this, which is why I'm able to add it to this TBR. It also has gold sprayed edges, so that helps with my special edges shelf reading. And this author is actually like 2 Italian sisters, and it just sounds really cool, and I'm glad that they have this debut novel, and I really want to know my thoughts on it to be able to share them with you. From what I know about this is she is a princess, and there was a coup where she lost her family, her dragon, everything. And they also believe that she lost her life during that coup. Then this royal family came in and laid claim to this Fae kingdom. Though she's magical, she seeks refuge in a human realm and then like hides her magic, puts that behind her. But she's also taken on a new identity as an assassin. She's also blessed with dark powers, including the ability to hide in the shadows. And the son of the queen that has usurped this kingdom, he has a lot of power, but he cannot escape the brutal murder of the prince he once called a friend. And now that he's heir to the throne, he has to set aside his own desires and just has to focus on learning how to rule. But then there's a prophecy that comes forward that says that the dragon-blessed rulers are not dead and that they will come back to claim their throne. So then they're all thrust into finding her, including the prince himself. And of course, as an enemies to lovers, he struggles to be able to kill her. They start to fall for each other. I'm assuming she probably knows she needs to usurp the throne. There's some political underlining deviousness that they uncover together, and it just sounds good. And I know it's probably not really surrounding dragons all that much, but dragons are mentioned, and that's enough for me. And it sounds interesting. I like that he is sent to kill her in this instance, and it just sounds good. And I'm really curious about these authors and what else they're going to come up with if I like this book. So that's this one. All right, everyone. Well, that is my way too ambitious fantasy romance June TBR. Hopefully you guys are excited about hearing my thoughts on these. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these if you have read them, or which ones you would like to see me read first. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.